Peace, infinite waters, diving deep once again. 5 signs you're in the 5th dimension. We are about to dive deep. I want you to get ready to jump. Jump. Don't do it. Ah! Splash. It's too late. Welcome to the 5th dimension. Can I get a hello there? In becoming your greatest version, what's helped me along my journey is learning more about different dimensions, because knowledge is power. Wisdom is power. Now, before we get into the signs, let's take a look at what dimensions are. In science, they tell us a dimension is a measure of spatial extent. So, you have a dot that has no dimension. And what the dot sees is nothing. Moving to the 1st dimension, that would be a simple straight line. Now, what this straight line would see is a dot. In the 2nd dimension, what Carl Sagan would call for us flatland creatures, if you are an ant, you are experiencing life in the 2nd dimension. You have length and width. But you have no idea of what it feels like to go up and down. For that, you would have to be living in the 3rd dimension. So we are told we are 3-dimensional beings because we can experience length, width, and depth. In society, you get a job so you can afford to have a life, but then you spend all your time at work and end up with no time to live the life you're working for. Any questions? No, I thought not. Many of us, we feel this is all there is. And for me, I had a lot of questions because I always knew there was more, but not just me. Many physicists also realize that there is more to this universe than meets the eye. So, from the 1st dimension, you see nothing. From the 2nd dimension, you see the 1st dimension. From the 3rd dimension, we are actually seeing 2 dimensions, length and width. You are staring at this video on a 2D on a monitor, okay? So for something to be experienced in the full totality of a 3D object, we would have to be perceiving it from the 4th dimension. Albert Einstein, who spoke of the theory of relativity, spoke of the 4th dimension being time, motion. Now, many people might say that time is a man-made construct. I say there is no time, there is only movement. So when a 3D object is moving around, it is moving in time. But to experience the totality of a 3D object, you need to be in a 4th dimensional time-space. That's where we get this whole concept of space-time from Einstein. Now, 2 films to look out for: Inception and Interstellar. Christopher Nolan is really trying to give us a glimpse of the fifth dimension, okay? In that film, Interstellar. Now, I've spoken of the fourth dimension in time, but the fourth dimension in space could be seen in what we call a tesseract, which is basically a hypercube. When you have two 3D cubes and you join them up. But none of us really know what that would be like, because once again, we can't even see a 3D object. We see a building, but we don't know what's on the other side. So you had the German physicist Kaluza, the Swedish physicist Klein, and they came up with the Kaluza-Klein theory about electromagnetism and gravity, unifying the two. This would take us to the unified field theory. And they were doing field equations in 5D. So it's around the corner that we will have solid scientific proof. Solid proof that 5 dimensions exist. Okay? Some people even say there are 10 and 12. But let's just stick with 5 because let's not confuse ourselves. Let's not go so deep just yet. Now, for the signs we are living in 5D, let me share with you what I've discovered. Now, in ancient times, you had oracles. And oracles, in essence, were able to predict the future, and they were able to tap into the past. In essence, they were able to tap into any timeline in the 3D. So the first sign that we are in the fifth dimension is that so many of us around the world are letting go of this man-made concept called time. Now, the Gnostics talked of beings from the fourth dimension called archons creating calendars for human beings, and a lot of us being locked into time. A lot of us, we say, I don't have time. So time keeps us in a mental, physical, and emotional prison. But if you break out of time, now that is a sign you are in the fifth dimension, because you are not living in a linear way of just the past, present, and future. The past, present, and future are all happening simultaneously. So now, before you go to battle, what did generals, where did they go? Pythia, the Oracle of Delphi, and the Temple of Apollo in ancient Greece. They would go to her and ask her to predict the future. So she would get into these altered states of reality, and she would tell them that if you go and do this, you might die. But if you go and do that, you might live and be prosperous. So you have 2 possibilities. Much more than that, actually. But she was able to realize that in the fifth dimension, you have a whole array of possible outcomes. So in the fourth dimension, you're seeing a timeline of the 3D. In the fifth dimension, you are actually seeing all the potential possibilities of any action happen in 3D space and time. So, knowing that, as we begin to lose this concept of time, some people say, oh my goodness, it's Monday. That means I've got to go to work. I've got to suffer. I've got to struggle. That's what I used to say along my journey. But just connecting with so many amazing people, their Monday is like a Friday. Their Tuesday is like a Saturday. Why? Because they are deleting that program of time. And they are stepping into infinite possibilities. They are creating a whole new world where, in essence, they get to decide whatever they do and however they feel in any precise moment in space and time. Now, the second sign is that many of us are losing this concept of matter. Now, in Newtonian physics, so Isaac Newton, he did a great job of showing us a different way of looking at the universe. But he saw the universe as being separate. That this universe was deterministic, almost like a machine. And that we were victims of matter. We had no way of influencing matter. Now, we can talk of quantum physicists such as David Bohm, Max Planck, showing us that just by observing any object, we are actually changing it. And that is a sign we are living in the fifth dimension. Dr. Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief, a fantastic biologist, we've had him on the show, talks of epigenetics, how our perception can alter our DNA. Once again, we are changing how we see matter. We are seeing, going back to a Hermetic principle, that everything is vibrating. In actuality, it doesn't matter. Literally. Norman Doidge, the great psychiatrist, the brain that changes itself, neuroplasticity, that our brain changes based on our experience, is showing us it doesn't matter. Nothing is solid, nothing is absolute. We can change ourselves at any moment. That is a sign we are living in the fifth dimension, because we are now reclaiming back our power. The third sign is that collectively on the planet, we are letting go of fear. What is fear? False evidence appearing real. So ask yourself, what are you consuming daily? Many people are consuming fear. You see, fear keeps you in the third dimension. Why? Because fear is all about contraction. When you embrace the love frequency, you now are in or entering the fifth dimension. Why? Because love is all about expansion. Some people say, I was so in love, I thought I could fly. And you probably could if you wanted to. Because you are now expanding your spatial extent. Anything is possible. When you have emotions which aren't serving you, which are very low vibrational, they actually keep you inside a box. So what helped me along my journey was to change what I tuned into, because we turn into whatever we are tuned into, and whatever we focus on grows. So if you make it your intention to create more love in your life, being in a loving relationship, connecting with those who remind you who you are, now we can all assist each other to see things from a different way, that we are not separated. In essence, everything is connected. You see, fear only allows us to see things at a very limited angle, a narrow view. Love opens up new perspectives. You see, each perspective is a different dimension. That is why there is such a need to repress. There is such a need to repress your love energy. So there are so many distractions. But you see, once you can rise above that fear frequency, that's the gateway to expansion. And that is a sign you are in the fifth dimension. And it all starts with having enough self-love. And that's where the planet is heading right now. Love yourself 100%. The fourth sign would be you are letting go of the lack of opportunities. You are seeing you are living in a world of infinite possibilities. Now, growing up, I thought, okay, I had to do everything this way. Why? Because my parents told me, because my friends told me. Then I said, if you are telling me to go right, I'm going to go left. I'm going to have some fun along the way. So many people right now on the planet are realizing that they can literally co-create any world they choose, because that is what we are here to do, to become the greatest versions of ourselves. But you can't do that until you embrace your full potential, your full possibilities around you. Then it's over, because that means you can be anything you want. There are no limits except the ones you create in your mind. And what else? You see, going back to the Oracle, some people have dreams. You see, when you're in the fifth dimension, you can access different points in time, and you can actually talk to a wounded part of yourself. Maybe you had a conversation with someone and you cussed them out. Whoops, I didn't want to say that. But when you are lucid dreaming, you can talk to that person. I've tried it and it works. And then you meet them and they're like, don't worry about it. What happened? You went back in time and you changed the past. That's a secret. And the last sign is that you see that you have the power to reconcile with the past, and that your future potential is happening all right now. The past, present, and the future are all happening right now. So in your mind, you visualize yourself as an old man, an old woman. Okay? That exists somewhere. You see that this child, who you were in your past, that still exists. Okay, if something happened to you, you can talk to your inner child and heal it in this very present moment. But what allows us to reconcile with the past and see our potential future? What's helped me along my journey is meditation. Meditation, check out the Harvard studies. Not only does it improve our cognition, but it's all about expansion. It is a gateway into the power of now, mindfulness meditation. It allows us to let go of limitations which are fear-based and step into the love vibration. One of the greatest physicists, Stephen Hawking, talked about that time is not just linear, past, present, future, but you also have vertical time, which he called imaginary time. And this is where we start getting into the fifth dimension. Now, a great example of the fifth dimension would be the internet. In my old videos, I would say we created the internet to find ourselves. And just like in Lucid Dreaming, check out my video on that, by the way, the internet allows us to go into the past. You posted a comment, whoops, let me change it. You can change it if you want. The present, and it allows us to see our potential future. Google does it all the time. It knows what you are going to click based on your past history. But you say, what about free will? Well, in the fifth dimension, there are possibilities for our every single action. So we have so many choices. Many people describe it as a branch of possibilities where we can see ourselves in a timeline and what we will be doing at any particular point in that timeline. And we can choose where we want to go. Do I want to continue eating junk food? A part of me is doing that. The higher part of me is waking up every day, being thankful, connecting with amazing people. The other part of me is maybe bitter, angry. So we can choose whatever we want to experience. And that is a great sign. We are living in the fifth dimension. And that's it. In becoming your greatest version, once again, I say what we are most afraid of is our power. And don't let anybody tell you you are crazy because you have a different idea from them. Because you have a different idea from them. Who knows? You may be onto something. And the fifth dimension is only a perspective. It is not the absolute truth because it goes on forever. But just me knowing that is why I can do what I do, because I realize we are all living in a world of infinite possibilities and we can be anything we choose. Have a wonderful day. We are here, infinite waters, diving deep once again. Stay well, stay healthy.